Insight Within, where we explore how to access the wisdom and intelligence from within us to enhance our health and well-being. So, my name is Afua Tia from Renewed Spirit Life, and today my guest is Kim Johnson. Kim has practiced traditional Chinese medicine in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan for the past 15 years. Kim has always been fascinated with the energy field of the body and how to affect it to create healing. So in her early 20s, she studied listening hands therapy, pranic healing, and immersed herself in research on awareness, healing, health, and esoteric teachings. In her late 20s, Kim went back to school for traditional Chinese medicine, as it is a very specific type of energy work, able to access multiple levels of being, and has a long history of use. Kim is most interested in how the soul is evolving its awareness in every moment, including moments of disease or distress. So thank you, Kim, for coming.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
So I have had a few acupuncture sessions with you, and they were definitely unlike other acupuncture sessions. And I love that you brought in the aspects of, what's going on in the energy and the emotional, the unseen realm to kind of help me dial in even more when I was like laying there with with needles in me. It kind of helped me to really, I think, probably make the sessions a lot more effective.
Yeah, I think everyone is different, and so I try to really be aware of what it is that's the next step for each person. And so some people really just want to keep with the physical, and they want me to get rid of their pain, right. Or help them get rid of their pain, which is I used to kind of think that wasn't so useful, but I understand now that it really is a way to bring a lot of love into the world, because it's really hard to be loving when you're in so much pain, and it really closes people's worlds down and their ability to see things and to be aware when they're internally focused on so much aching and hurting all the time. So some people, I just do the acupuncture and they want to just kind of keep on that level of the physical. And so the acupuncture really helps to release tension in the muscles and reduce inflammation and cue all the nerves to do what they need to do and stimulate the brain to really rebalance things. But some people want those other aspects. And so I really...
Like me?
Yeah, like you. But that's most fun for me in a way, because I get to explore different parts of the system. And in Chinese medicine, it's really a holographic system. It's holographic fractals. So holographic means that all of the pieces of the whole are represented in each tiny aspect.
Okay.
So for instance, in the ear, you could do ear acupuncture and the whole body is represented just in the ear. Or there's Korean hand acupuncture and the whole body is represented on the hand. Or even in reflexology,
right.
The whole body is represented on the foot. So that's a holograph. So the whole is represented in each piece. And then fractal means repeating pattern on all levels, or on different levels of scale. And so Chinese medicine is this really beautiful way of looking at how your system is integrated on all sorts of levels, from physical to emotional to spiritual, and then even into larger levels like the landscape level for the seasons, and out into the cosmos, all in repeating patterns that are reflected in your own internal system.
That is so interesting, because like when I think of Chinese medicine, which I love because, there's like the herbal aspect, there's the acupuncture. I mean, there's probably so many things that I don't know some that you just mentioned. Like I think, more of the meridians of the body and, the different points. But that's really interesting what you mentioned about like that's so important, the holographic nature, that everything is kind of showing up. Yeah. Something in a different part of my body is showing up in another part of my body.
Yeah. And it's all interrelated. So in Western medicine, we tend to take things apart And it's quite mechanistic, and so everything is taken down into specialties, into very tiny units to see how the very smallest part works. And in Chinese medicine, they really want to look at overall patterns, and you're kind of seen as an overall ecosystem, and how is that ecosystem working. And they divide up the system in elements in some of the frameworks. So there's a 5-element theory, and each of those elements are like archetypal energies, and they're each reflected in different organ systems. Those organ systems are related to specific tissues and sense organs and foods and seasons and all that kind of stuff. And by seeing how they're interrelating, you can see how the little ecosystem is working or not. And that's how something that seems quite far from, let's say you have lung issues, and you also have issues in the skin. In Chinese medicine, those two are related. One is a tissue extension of the other, and so they're in the same element. So you can start looking at different things that seem very different. Is that the element of
fire?
No, that one's metal, actually.
Oh, okay. My knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's okay. I can get mixed up too. I'd probably get mixed up just for the interview. Just to keep me nice and humble. But yeah, so there's a way that the body organizes itself that's very specific. So when you have stress, your body puts that stress somewhere very specific depending on what it is that you're stressed about. And whether that's a food or a toxin, or whether that's actually an emotion or a thought pattern, the body and the mind organizes it incredibly specifically. So and that's a gift, so that when you're trying to figure out what it is that's out of whack for yourself, you can use the whole system to give you clues about what it is that's connected on other levels. So
right, so all those symptoms are going to be pointing to this, which system is kind of off balance, and that's related to specific organs, and that's also related to specific element.
Yeah, and specific emotions, right?
Emotions, yeah.
So usually the piece that I find most useful to give people, because really when people come in, I want to help them figure it out for themselves and have tools so that they can figure it out without me.
Yeah.
Because I've really considered that I've done a good job if they take all the tools and go do happy things, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And have that for themselves at home, and that they don't actually need to come back to me. And so that they find another level of awareness with it. So on the emotions specifically are really something I talk with people about, because the brain, the nervous system, the spirit, however you want to talk about it, it is very specific about where it puts its stress about a particular emotion. So in Western medicine, we tend to say, oh, stress is bad, stress is really hard on the system. But in Chinese medicine, they really have taken a look at what specific emotions affect what organs. And that is something really useful, because then if you have an imbalance in that organ, you can look at the kinds of issues that surround that specific emotion and see if you can access a level of healing with that emotion, and work on the dietary things that might help that organ, and work on acupuncture, and get the necessary medical treatments. But you're able to then access the part that's emotional or spiritual that is also out of balance. So
because I find that emotions are quite difficult.
Yeah. It's intense.
One, because they can be intense, and also because our perception of them, and like you said, we have this idea that stress is bad. So I know for myself, and I know a lot of clients I work with, if we're feeling, or if I'm feeling a particular emotion, I have to kind of consciously tell myself it's okay to have this emotion, and try to acknowledge it, as opposed to just shoving it down and everything is okay. But like what you're saying is that those emotions are like pretty much like
they never go away.
Yeah, we
or not never, but they never go away without awareness.
They're gonna kind of get into an organ that's gonna cause stress on an organ.
Yeah, or in a part of the system somewhere, right? So people, I think, because of Western medicine's kind of focus on the physical, we tend to think of psychology and psychiatry and emotions, all that kind of stuff, is very separate from the physical body.
Right.
And it doesn't really work that way. They're actually so integrated, you wouldn't even be able to cut a line between them.
Right.
So it turns out that certain emotions have a disproportionate effect on certain organs. Now that might be because of the neurotransmitters that are involved. They get made in a certain part of the system, or whatever it is, they're disproportionately affect the different parts. So for instance, do you want me to quickly go through them?
Sure.
Might as well just go through them.
Yeah.
Okay. So the spleen stomach is kind of, is earth. And I always imagine earth kind of like the Buddha sitting there contemplating nothing. It's very like earth mother, Pachamama, kind of centered, totally full and relaxed and not concerned about anything. And so that's the spleen stomach, because that's really the root of your nourishment on a day-to-day basis, right? So every organ network has a yin and a yang organ. So just go with me. Yin and a yang organ. So they're like pairs. They're like a husband-wife team. They're all paired up.
Okay.
Everybody has a pair. Everybody has a partner.
Because I know some of this, but now I'm really getting a bigger... Okay. Okay, I like it.
Well, I'll try to keep it like just simple enough to be practical. And if you're more interested, there's some lovely books, of course, out there that are really great to learn.
Or they can go and talk to you and, you
for sure.
Be like, these are the organs given to you.
But let's start. So there's earth.
Yeah.
That's your spleen stomach. That's the husband-wife team, spleen stomach. So what affects one affects the other. So they're often referred to kind of in the same pathologies. They're kind of tied. Okay. So in happiness, in goodness, when the spleen stomach is really working really well, people are really centered and lovely. You know, like, and nothing really bugs them. They're very like calm, kind of like the Buddha sitting there doing his or her thing. When it's out of whack, so when it's not as balanced, it turns into worry and overthinking. And so, and we all know that when we worry and overthink,
that we can't
stomach it. Right? Like people say things like, you can't stomach it. Yeah. Right? And because they're so worried about what's coming into their world, right?
And the appetite can be affected. People puke, people get nauseous, right? People who are really anxious or little kids that are anxious and worry so much, they're like, they can't go to school because their tummies are upset, all that kind of stuff. So those are the emotions for the spleen stomach. Okay. And or the correlated emotions. So from there it goes to metal, which is the lungs and the large intestine. And the lungs and the large intestine have a lot to do with acceptance. So I always look at the acceptance, because you breathe in life, you breathe in what's coming and you discern what's you and what's not. You have this like natural barrier of coming in and what you take and what you let go of. And then of course in a physiological way, you breathe in and you let go. So that's the husband-wife team. One breathes in, one lets go. Yep. I mean, you breathe out when obviously let go too. but you get the idea. So the body is strategically putting issues of not being able to let go in the large intestine. Like constipation.
Yeah. Like we all intuitively like get it, right? We're like,
I'm kind of just so pent up and just can't let it go. Yeah,
can't let it go, right? And they'll end up, so it puts tension and that puts a lack of nerve innervation and a lack of function then in that area, right? So it turns into a physiological reflection. When you can't let go of things, it turns out that you start impairing the ability to let go of things physiologically. Yeah, so the other part for the lungs anyway is grief and sadness. So grief really affects the lungs, and we all know that. Yeah. And it's just so hard on the lungs. We all like when we're sad and crying, we all get that grief affects the lungs a lot.
Yeah.
So you'll often see, like, or we all know a senior who got pneumonia or got a cold after their husband or their wife died, right? Because the lungs are so energetically involved with grief that they don't have enough physiologically to function properly.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
yeah.
crazy. But we all get it, right? So it's this Chinese medicine has this mapping out of emotions, right? So that when you have issues with certain areas, you can start looking at the emotions. You can start
tackling it.
Yeah, and just be like, because lots of us don't really know when we have something physiologically. We don't have like an instant hit, like, oh yeah, that's my issue about whoever. Or whatever, and right?
The other thing I find is that, it's often easier to see it in somebody else
for sure.
than to see it in ourselves. So kind of the more we understand how our own system is working, we can apply it more to ourselves.
Right, we can understand like how it's translating, right? And then this becomes our best friend that is showing us where we're actually out of balance versus where we think that we're in balance, right? Like we think we're like, oh yeah, I'm good. I'm good with this stress, or I'm good with whatever's happening in my life. But the body is showing that it's really not able to function well. Right? And because it's reflecting things onto the physical level, right?
Okay.
So the lungs, and then it goes to the kidneys. So the kidneys and bladder are paired. So in kind of acute negative aspect is fear, which is why people pee themselves when they're scared, right? Because it's this big hit to the kidneys and bladder. Yeah. And in its good aspect is willpower. Right, you get your willpower about you.
Yeah, with your kidneys.
Your instinct, right? We all get that. It's like this deep instinct.
Oh yeah, I've been in both of those situations.
Yeah, the fight or flight.
You feel that.
Right?
Yeah. And so is that water?
Yeah, that's water. Yay!
I got it.
You
right.
go, girl. yeah. So
it's kind of obvious.
Yeah, well, not totally. But the more you learn about it, right? I mean, obviously, you can get way more specific. Right?
Oh yeah. We're just touching on the.
This is just kind of big system.
Okay. So after water
then comes wood.
Okay.
And so that's the liver gallbladder. And the liver is particularly kind of prone to imbalances in our society. We're kind of pathologically not in a good place with that kind of energy. So the liver gallbladder, which is wood, has an energy about it that's very directed purpose, and it's creative. It's got like this creative drive to it that's like the creative movement of spring, right? Things growing and doing their thing in the world and getting things done. So the gallbladder, do you know that saying, don't give it to that guy, he has no gall? He won't do it. He won't actually get it done.
Yeah, so he has no gall.
He has no gall. He won't get it done, right?
Yeah, like, he doesn't have that.
He won't drive.
He won't bring it.
He won't bring it, period. Yeah, so that saying is actually kind of honing in on the energy of that part of the system, which is this energy which is able to get things done. But our society is pathologically a get-it-done kind of society.
So it's almost like our liver and gallbladder is like overdoing it. It's
all the time. All the time.
So it's probably drained.
Yeah, it's just
out of balance.
My teacher called it jungle liver. It's like you want to get it done, get it done, get it done, get it done. Like we have unending lists. We could go on and on and on, right? Of getting things done. Like our jobs want you to get stuff done, or when we come home, we have a huge list of what to get done: laundry, feeding children, all that kind of stuff. And so I think I'll back up a tiny bit. Yep. In the area of, let's say you had a beautiful idea. Let's say, so I'm going to back up just to Earth. So in Earth, you were contemplating nothing, and then you moved around the cycle, because they all feed each other. You move around the cycle, and you get inspired about something, which was metal, lungs. You get inspired, right? Inspired about something, and then you moved around to the kidney bladder, which was water, which is your deep instinct. You're like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And then you move to liver gallbladder, which is the planner and the getter done. So whatever you came up with is that part of the system is able to move forward, be creative, and get the task done. Yeah. So what's supposed to happen, because they actually in Chinese medicine, it's an ecosystem where one is the mother of the next, right? And one is the child of the last. So they feed each other And the whole cycle is supposed to move around in this kind of harmonious flow, like seasons changing into each other, or, you know, there's lots of nature analogies, but there's a natural flow to it. In our society, we tend to just stay over in wood, which is the liver gallbladder, and we get things done all the time. But we don't get to the next one of the cycle, which is the last one, which is the heart, which is fire. And the heart is really all about satisfaction and joy. Like, we made a plan, we got it done, and then we got to the end and we were like, good job, me. Even though that wasn't what I really wanted, or it didn't turn out quite the way I thought it was going to turn out. Yeah. You have this moment where you like settle and you have joy and satisfaction that you created something in the world. You allow yourself to have satisfaction. Yeah. And then in a healthy cycle, you would then get centered again, get inspired, get your willpower, make a plan, get done, get happy, or have happiness from it, or joy that you created in the world. And around you go again and again, and it creates this beautiful flow. But we just stay over in one little area.
And so we're not getting the center, and we're not getting like the true inspiration, and that's why people it becomes draining. Tasks. And people, like, we kind of lose passion, because that's a pretty big thing. As people are just they've got no, and they feel like, why am I doing this? Yeah.
Because they stay in that little part of the cycle, and instead of going around, they turn around immediately and get it done again, and get it done and get it done, and the energy of that part of the system just knots up. And that's why they my teacher called it jungle liver, because it just makes this big knot of crazy in the liver gallbladder, which is also the brunt of so much chemical and toxin stress when you think about it in terms of our diet and any kind of dietary imbalances that we have. The liver is really the brunt of all of that stuff. So together, that makes a kind of a disaster, can be a disaster, because we get more and more out of balance. And emotionally, at some point, your get up and go gets up and goes. Right? And your creativity can't flow anymore, and people end up apathetic or depressed because it's so congested, it's so tight, you just can't move.
I think that a lot of people watching can relate to this.
Yeah,
like
sure.
I think
all of us.
Most people can relate to that, because like I can relate to it in myself, I can relate it to it in my clients, and so would you say that if we kind of paid more attention and kind of consciously took the time to enjoy and just enjoying the simple, I made it through the day, so I need to just...
Even in smaller tasks, right? Like, just to be aware that cycle is happening in the system, or not happening, as the case may be, and to have an awareness that the emotional system is ever present throughout every tissue in the whole body, right? And so if you ignore that kind of stuff, and so the emotion of liver gallbladder, we actually didn't say, the emotion is frustration and anger when it's out of balance. So when people
I knew that because I've had my own issues with anger and acknowledging anger.
It turns to frustration, anger, right? Because you can't get it done, and you can feel that kind of angst to it, right?
And I think sometimes I find when my anger comes up, it often has to do with not having enough time, and so I'm angry. I kind of get pissed because like I just want to have some time. Yeah. Like, it can be just as simple as that, and that's when my anger can get active. But that's one of the reasons my anger can get activated. Yeah. I think we're all like that. There's other reasons too, but like when you're mentioning that cycle, that's what it makes me think about. Right. Is that just not having that time to simply be myself, and just not having to function.
Not having demands on yourself, right? Yeah. Like constant demands. Yeah. It's not just like a demand. It's like this never-ending list of demands that you have to fulfill on, and it doesn't allow you, because in the positive is just creative force in the system, directed creative movement, to not have the joy from it, even if it's just a little bit, automatically congests that part of the system.
And I'm really happy that we've kind of gone into that in detail, because like I lived in Africa for 12 years, okay? So when I came back to Canada, talk talk about culture shock, even though I grew up here until I was 17. So, but I came back and I realized I never had a break. But the good thing was that I had that other experience of living in Africa.
So were they more relaxed, like on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, people don't, like I was just talking to a Ghanaian, my mother is from Ghana, so I lived there for a long time. And we were talking about how people aren't so serious. Like, it's just not so serious. And the other thing is people at the end of the day, they go and talk to a friend. They have the time. They have
to relax. They have joy.
Because it's a societal expectation. Here we have the societal expectation that we have all these things, right? So it's a total different thing. And so I think it's important for all of us to acknowledge it, because even if we start doing it just for ourselves, we are helping to change this societal expectation.
Well, for sure, because we're all part of one consciousness.
Yeah, so
right?
It's like,
and so as we change the rituals,
just even ourselves,
for sure,
we're helping
and
others.
I feel like people sometimes they come to me and they're like, "Oh no, I'm really good with stress," you know, like, and it's, I think we are so far kind of out of whack for what we consider to be healthy.
We're so out of whack.
That's what I mean. And so we're like, oh no, I'm fairly low stress, but really, let's say healthy is here and our norm is like here, and you're below norm, but you're still past what would be healthy if you actually acknowledged all of these different energies.
Yes, and I noticed that with, like, because I mentioned in my interview with Charity that with the eczema on my hands, that I realized that was just a symptom of like low-lying stress. That for sure. Again, I thought, I'm managing it. I'm doing everything and I'm cool. Yeah. But I realized, no. No, that's a symptom. And like they say, listen to the little whispers so that it, listen to the whispers of your body so that you don't have to hear it scream. Yeah, because we tell ourselves all kinds of things about how well we're doing, right? Or that doesn't really bug me, or I don't really have any issues about that, or whatever. And then we're like, how come I don't go to the bathroom, or how come I am always got such bad PMS, right? And so, just as a side note, the liver regulates menstruation. And it also regulates the smooth flow of emotions, which is why when the menstrual cycle comes around for women, it really takes emotions for a run with it too, right? And so learning about the interconnections of the system are actually such a brilliant way to just learn about your own kind of map of consciousness throughout your whole system, so you can start making those connections, and then that will lead you to thinking about, well, then am I good with that? Or do I have, that is really bugging me. And it gives you an opportunity to look at it instead of thinking about it, kind of, because we think ourselves into it being okay, but the body is really showing you where it is in the system that actually isn't loving for us. So I always consider pathology a lack of awareness and light in a certain area. And light being consciousness or awareness, and love, right? So anywhere in the system that is carrying a memory that you don't want to, that maybe is traumatic, that you don't want to look at anymore, or a thought pattern that is also traumatic on some level, or isn't really about love, your body registers that specifically, and your awareness of it turns away. That awareness of it is linked to nerve innervation, right? It's linked to how those sensory proteins on the cell wall, or intergreen frequency and all that kind of stuff, in order to function. And if you have a lot of awareness turned away from a specific area, that automatically starts to make that area not function as well. And so pathology is really a way to look at a certain area and say, well, what part of my awareness and what part of my love can I bring to this part of my system? And sometimes that's like changing your diet or moving around, right? Because you don't have enough movement. Yep. Maybe you need yoga or whatever it is. But sometimes it's a part of the system that's emotional or mental.
and the system is reflecting a condition where you won't bring your love to it, where it's not in harmony because it's not a loving thought or loving memory that you won't look at.
Most definitely.
Yeah. And so it's like this beautiful, I really love that part about Chinese medicine because it's a way to kind of look at all the clues so that you can start honing in on what it is that's out of balance that you don't even know yet. Right? Because if you knew it was out of balance, you probably would have done something about it, right? So it's not like a blame game. It's more like a mystery game, you know.
The puzzles and so like chronic illness doesn't just all of a sudden happen. It's like over time there's been less awareness on a certain part of the body or certain
multiple
emotion,
reasons, right?
different things.
Yeah.
And so we can kind of use it as a preventative to just keep our body healthy. But also if we already have a chronic, situation, we can use that to target it and really heal it at a deep level.
We can use the body, like your body is talking to you, like I'm holding something here, or I have something that's out of whack here that is something that we need healed, and so it's an opportunity. Lots of people consider, especially when the body starts not functioning as well, that the body's kind of against them. People say things like, well, if my body would just do it, I mean,
it feels like it's failing us or something like that. But that's not like,
but it's not.
It is our friend. It just needs a little extra love.
Yeah, like it's actually our closest mirror of what we're actually perceiving in the world and whether that's in harmony with the rest of the life force around us. So it's a really good thing to delve into. And it's,
Now, I just got a couple little more questions left. And one is, how do you use this for yourself? How do you use this awareness for yourself?
Yeah. So I'm aware. I mean, I've used my own body's dysfunction to like dive into all kinds of issues I didn't know I had over the years, like, and by learning those correlations, that gave me clues about what to look for or kinds of questions to ask myself. And so, and then I use acupuncture, of course, because it brings awareness of the body, because it basically lights up all the neural connections for that area of the body or for those organs. And your system's very self-healing. It's oriented to self-heal itself, right? Like
you
it
just
has
gotta
this
get
incredible ability, and thank God we're not in charge, right? Because we could barely keep ourselves breathing if it was really up to us, right? If you had to think about it, you would not make it, right? So yeah, it just settling in and allowing that wisdom to the needles help the system become aware of an area again.
Yeah.
Right. So it brings light or awareness, nerve innervation to that area, and then the system knows then or has an ability to put that back into harmony.
So it's kind of like a fit, as opposed to like a conscious awareness, but it's also bringing the physical awareness directly, like
So when people come to me, or even myself, so if I know that I'm having an issue with something in particular, like grief, I'll put in lung points on myself. Right? Because I know that part of the system is going to be not working as well as it could be, right? Or that I might end up with issues there.
Yeah.
Or if someone comes to me and they have a lot of menstrual issues that usually, not always, but it has a lot to do with liver function. And so I'll be cued to start asking them about frustration and anger or other kind of, what kind of pace they have to their job, how they feel about that kind of creative cycle in their life, so that they can start dealing with those kinds of emotions. And then the needles will help the liver network actually relax and open up, right? So I can help this system with the acupuncture to actually rebalance itself on its own, and that gives like this break, this breathing moment for people to really be able to see more clearly, which is like this moment of awareness, like, oh, I get it, I need to do this, or they'll just have these spontaneous kind of changes in how they feel.
Well, I can relate to that because like when I'm laying there, and when I was laying there in your treatment room, it's like I could just feel, energy. I could just, like you said, about kind of lighting up the system. And when the needles were in, it felt like my body at that moment was so much more balanced. And like you had mentioned about when you're in pain, your perspective becomes narrower. And so when in that moment when you're having the needles in, and then even afterwards, it's like your body is able to, in my perspective, it feels like the body is able to kind of remember what balance feels like, and then it can kind of keep on going after.
Yeah, it's like this moment where you get to find what it felt like again. Like lots of people come to me and then they're like, and afterwards they're like, oh my God, I didn't know I could relax like that or whatever, right? And there's you need such fight or flight that when the body actually settles back down and isn't in fight or flight, they're like, oh my Lord.
And
like,
the answers to some of the deeper questions may just come.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is what's going on.
Yeah, because it's really hard to find those deeper answers when you're in fight or flight, right? When you're just going, and you haven't actually settled in so long you can't even remember that your body could do it. And it's a nice thing to help people to have that experience so that they know that they can, right? Yeah, like it's not lost. Their body totally can do that. Yeah. In a moment, really, and so that gives them something to like hone in on, like, oh yeah, I remember when I felt like that. Exactly, that's possible for me. So that's a really good thing. Yeah.
So now, how can people get in touch with you if they want to learn and they want to get this or just if you just want to get those needles and you just want to get, it could be any level of ailment.
Yeah.
How can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so the easiest is probably on Facebook, White Crane Traditional Chinese Medicine, or under Ethos, Center for Health and Happiness, which is the clinic that I'm now working out of. Probably Ethos is the best one because it's the most checked for messages. And there's a link on that for making appointments.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so all the links are going to be in the description if you want to get in touch with Kim. So Kim, thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thanks so much for having me. That was fun. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. And thank you for watching and